What's up, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of Between the Corners. I will be your host Sweat, but I couldn't do this alone, so I got my brother to go ahead and do this with me. And I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Hey, everyone. Thank you, Josh. I'm Robert, and we have some very, very exciting things to talk about today. Just to kind of a little bit of background of what we're going to be doing today. I think we can kind of start there. Basically, we're going to do something that we're both very passionate about. We're going to go through fights, whether they be fights that we have already seen. For example, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but what happened this weekend, as well as upcoming fights, kind of break them down and give our take on them. And the reason this is kind of natural for us, right? We've been doing this for quite some time already without
the cameras.
Without the cameras, right? Every fight that we've watched, basically, I wouldn't say we're perfect, right? Well, I kind of am.
Damn.
But pretty much every fight we've been able to call exactly, almost exactly what's going to happen next, even before the commentators basically say what's about to happen or what their take is on it. We've already kind of established that. We've already kind of called what's going to happen. So I think it kind of comes natural to us. We've been kind of watching boxing. We've been watching MMA for the better part of our lives so far. So this is exciting.
Yeah, and as you said, this is a long time coming. We've talked about it just because of a lot of times, like you said, when we're watching fights, we say something and the announcers say it like several minutes later. Like we catch something like a certain fighter is leaving this side open or whatever. We say it and then they say it. And we always look at each other like, we might as well just do this, but we never did it. So I'm excited as well to finally do this here especially with you, Robert. Again, just because when I usually watch fights, you're there. So might as well turn the camera on.
When I'm usually watching fights, you're there.
Nah. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about ourselves as well. So we grew up here in Texas. That's where we're based out of. I guess the best way to kind of let people know that don't know too much about Texas, we're in the DFW area. That's where we're at. We grew up in the DFW area. I was born in Puerto Rico. He was born in
Nueva York,
Brooklyn, New York. Yes, sir. We were raised here in Texas, though, so we were Texas boys. And yeah, growing up, didn't have too much. Of course, now we're not rich or anything like that, but we're definitely in a much better place. But we are probably going to talk about that in a later episode, go a little bit more in depth of our history, of our background, I guess you can say.
Yep.
We just wanted to give you a quick, of where we're at type of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of add to that, I kind of mentioned this earlier. Been watching boxing since I was a kid. I've been watching since I think it was Noche UFC, Solo Boxeo, I think it was called. Solo Boxeo.
Oh, that's right.
That's
I remember that where Cotto was coming up.
Miguel Cotto. And I remember telling Josh, hey, there's a guy from Caguas, Puerto Rico, where we're from. He looks phenomenal. And sure enough, it turned out to be a great career for him. And, a lot of things that I wish he had done and things that I wish hadn't happened. Margarito. But that's a whole different conversation for another day. But yeah, I think we've been very, very passionate, not just about boxing, MMA. So we started watching when that started, right? At first, I'd be honest, like I didn't really respect it at first, to be completely honest. I thought it was kind of second class compared to boxing. It just seemed kind of, almost anybody could be in UFC at that point. Like that's kind of the way it felt. There was a lot of, yes, there were very high action fights and stuff like that. I didn't see the skill that I was used to in boxing, but I do see it now. I think I respect it and I see, where the fighters are now. And I think it's come a long way. And, this is no disrespect to some of the other fighters that used to be in UFC, but I think now it could be just that I just started liking it more. Right?
Yeah.
Because I watch it more, it does seem a little bit more, I guess, professional. Again, back then it just seemed like they were just everywhere. That was just my take on it. Maybe I was a little bit biased because I was defensive of boxing too. And I know people talk about, oh, boxing's a dying sport. But then you look at all the numbers and all these people that are, how much they make, they still make a lot more than all the
Yeah,
MMA
but
fighters.
that's for a different episode. The fighter pay and all that. But anyways, no. So back to your point, I was the opposite. I liked just watching boxing. Don't get me wrong, I was a fan of it. But when MMA was introduced, back when it was UFC, like the first UFCs, Pride was still on. I fell in love with it. Using like the whole body as a weapon, basically to go against your opponent, was just something I loved, and I could see the art in it. What they were doing, how they were doing it. It was just it. Yeah, it really intrigued me. Growing up as the younger one of well, I was a younger of one of four, but I had two older brothers, and even my sister whooped my butt every now and then. But yeah. So growing up, everybody had the size on me and everything like that. So seeing these smaller guys like tapping, bigger guys out or using like different techniques to win
Gave
a
you
fight.
some hope.
Yeah, it basically gave me hope. But yeah, that's where I'm a bit more of an MMA fan than he is. I'm still a boxing fan. Definitely enjoy any good combat sports event as long as it's it's good. Like not like Triller or anything like. But yeah,
That was a joke. That was bad.
But yeah, no. So let's go into it. We had a interesting night of some fights this weekend. We had Noche UFC, and then we had I guess you can call it, since the main event was Puerto Rico versus Mexico. Maybe, I don't know. They had like an event. Canelo was in it. That was a draw.
Was the Canelo show.
The Canelo show. Yeah, that was a bigger draw. But yeah, I mean, from what I saw, at least in the numbers, they both did similar numbers. At least in the gate, both of them reported about 22 million. Both of them reported that, which was funny, that they both reported the same number or close to the same number for the gate. Pay-per-view buys, I'm not too sure. I haven't looked at those numbers yet.
I've seen some numbers for the Canelo fight, supposedly around 750K, which shows, again, Canelo's drawing power. And, they sold the whole Mexico versus Puerto Rico down. I'm pretty sure that maybe has something to do with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take any credit away from Canelo. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Berlanga sold the show. He didn't. Like, let's just be honest. Any fight that Canelo has, people are going to watch, right?
Especially on Mexican Independence Day or Mexican Independence Weekend. Yeah.
Yep. So, no, I think they both did well. I think, in my opinion, originally I thought that Noche UFC wasn't going to do that good, right? I initially thought because they didn't have, I think, they could have, in my opinion, they still could have done a little bit better as far as having more Mexican fighters on the card. But it all turned out to be, at least from what I saw, a nice show.
Yeah, it was a really nice show.
I think that the main point that I was trying to make was more in line with the fact that they were trying to highlight Mexican Independence Weekend or Mexican Independence Day. But I think the show that they showed on the screen at the Sphere, and the whole experience behind it, I think they may have kind of made up for it.
Big time. And that was, you can tell that was the focal point of this, event. Especially because, like even the main event, there was not a Mexican fighter. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that was the main. I mean, they spent what was like 20 million in just making the show happen.
Yep.
And then the Canelo event was actually the opposite. I actually felt like it was going to be like fall short, and actually had some excitement. And again, we'll talk about that here at the actual fights here soon. But yeah, no, it still was a great night of combat sports for sure. I enjoyed it at least.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoyed it. We were watching both kind of at the same time. We have a nice little setup where we were able to watch both fights on a TV and a projector. So it was good to watch the action and pretty much do what we normally do.
Yeah. And one of the things, and just because this came to my mind, but the event at the Sphere for UFC, I love the different backgrounds that they use for different fights. It reminded me of Mortal Kombat. And like that was just super cool. And it took me back. Besides all the other, like the storyline and all that part I really enjoyed. It was
I
cool.
think that was really cool. And this may be kind of mean of me without getting into specifics as to who I'm talking about. But when somebody was getting beat up pretty bad, I remember saying, Finish her. I probably shouldn't be that mean.
Yeah.
Pretty beat up.
Hey, that's fine. They made it look like that way. It's their fault for making it look like a Mortal Kombat arena.
That was interesting. I would say not interesting. That was really cool. It makes me want to go there and actually experience it for myself.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
for sure.
And in the post-fight interview, I know Dana White mentioned, perhaps this will push other venues to kind of try to do the same. I really hope so.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know enough about what it would take to do something like that locally here, but I would absolutely love to see something like that. And I'm sure, most of you could probably agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. They put on a good show. But enough of the shows. Let's go ahead and get into the fights, and we'll start with boxing. We'll talk about the last three fights for each event, and then of course we could throw in any other fights that or fighters or anything like that you probably want to talk about. And I'll let you take the lead on this one. What fight do you want to talk about first, boxing wise?
We'll talk about Caleb Plant versus McCumbee. I think Trevor McCumbee. I think a lot of people expected Caleb Plant to kind of just, at least I did. I expected him to just steamroll past McCumbee. I know McCumbee was undefeated. He had a 75% knockout ratio going into the fight. And I think it kind of showed right at the very beginning, at least the power showed, I should say. The power showed. He knocked Caleb down. I think it was in the fourth round. I think I'm not wrong. He knocked McCumbee down in the fourth round. And then, after that, it looked like Plant kind of struggled there. I think Plant, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for him. Plant knows what happened there. He looked a little flat-footed. Maybe, perhaps, he underestimated McCumbee.
Yeah.
I think he thought McCumbee was just kind of I wouldn't say a nobody, but wasn't at his level. And perhaps McCumbee really wasn't. And, the outcome of the fight showed that, Caleb Plant was the better fighter.
Yeah.
But you could make the argument that it was stopped a little early.
It would have still had the same result.
Absolutely.
But I feel like it could have gone a little bit more. And Caleb Plant was also not all the way, like you said, I think he was looking past McCumbee because with the beef with Berlanga and all that as well.
Yep.
But
I think it was still a good fight. I think it made it interesting because we didn't expect that from McCumbee. We know he had power, but I thought just because of Plant, the way he boxed against Canelo, even though Canelo ended up finishing him. But I think I expected. I still expected Plant to kind of again steamroll past McCumbee, and that didn't happen. I mean, and he got the win. So that's what matters at the end of the night, right? Whether it was ring rust, whether it's because whatever other reason, at the end of the night, what matters is that he picked up the win. Maybe he needs to go back to the drawing board. I don't know that. Again, Plant knows whatever it is that he needs to do.
Yeah, no, and McCumbee's fighting style was a little awkward as well.
It was.
That I think that's what threw Plant off. Also, like he didn't fight like I guess you can say normal because I realized when he threw punches, he would like lunge in and use his body as well. He like basically punch and tackle like with his body.
Which is why I say that Plant potentially did not train, or maybe kind of was looking past him because, and to your point earlier, right? He was beefing with Berlanga. Maybe that's what led to him kind of overseeing or overlooking McCumbee, because McCumbee has done this before. We haven't seen him fight too much, but we've seen a few where he's fought very similarly. So I think I do think that Plant thought this was going to be an 85 for him.
Correct. By the way, folks, this is not alcohol. I just want to know because it kind of looks like alcohol. I just realized I'm not drinking. This is Liquid Death. It is tea. We're not sponsored by them, but Liquid Death. Hey, you want to throw a little sponsorship this way? You can go on ahead and hit me up. But yeah,
it's good stuff, man.
Let's go ahead and talk about the next fight of the boxing card, which was Danny Garcia versus Erislandy Lara.
Where do I start there? One word: disappointing. I was obviously going for Danny Garcia before the fight. I had picked Lara to win by decision. I thought, Garcia was going to show ring rust. I don't know if it was ring rust in there. I think it was. I really didn't see any heart from Garcia. He didn't seem to be in it. One can argue that's part of ring rust, but it just seemed like, I don't know, like it's almost like he went there, and I don't think he went in there with the mindset of just picking up a paycheck. But I think at one point he probably realized, you know what, this isn't going well. I think I'm done.
Yeah.
The knockdown was, it almost seemed just like a tap. Obviously, I wasn't there to receive that, but we've seen Danny Garcia get hit by some heavy hitters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most notably, he got hit by Earl Spence several times, and the guy never even buckled. Lara is not necessarily known for his power, although yes, he got a knockout in his last fight.
He's older.
He's older, but it was just the way that punch went, and it seemed like after that, Danny Garcia made up his mind he was done. And I say that because Garcia had never even been knocked down in any previous fight. Right? I think him tasting that for the first time, and he seemed kind of like out of it, like, wait, what is this? Like, this is what it feels like? No, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that age, I think he realized, I've already given a lot to the sport, and I think the fact that he keeps repeating that he dared to be great, which I agree. It's great that he did that. But
he took some time off and then moved up. It came back to move up in ways, so that's why he's saying he dared to be great to move up in a level.
Mm-hmm.
I did see him say that. But yeah, no, I mean, I saw the same thing. He quit in the fight. He quit, like, his mindset just, he was already like, why am I even here? And at the end of it, he got punched a little and saw a way out and just said, I can't no more. Oh yeah, he went to the corner, right? Yeah, he went to the corner and he said he couldn't anymore. So,
well, no, his dad, I think his dad was had asked him, "Are you good?" I think that's when Danny pretty much said, "Yeah, I'm
done." Yeah, that's sad to see. But probably that time.
It's still.
Do you think he has more fights in him?
That's gonna be hard to say. I'll be honest. Like, I don't know that I want to see him again like that. Yeah. It sucked to see. Seeing this guy against, again, some of the best out there. And I know a lot of people will say he's fallen short every time that he stepped up. Maybe true, but I still enjoyed fights and seeing that he was at least competitive. Way more competitive than he was against Lara, and just didn't seem to have it in there. And, the other side of that, right? I'm not going to disregard Lara. Like, the guy, I think I want to say he has a 60% knockout ratio, or had a 60% knockout ratio going into the fight. So nice. It's not like Lara didn't have any power either.
Yeah.
But Lara also is a very good boxer, right? I know there's a lot of people who thought he won the fight against Canelo. We're not going to talk about that. That's not what this is about. But it just goes to show, Lara has fought some of the best out there, has beaten some of the best, and has come maybe just short against some of the best. So it's not like Danny Garcia was fighting a nobody, but I think people expected him to give a better showing of himself, and he didn't.
Yeah, and to talk more about Lara, you mentioned his boxing, he just makes it hard for other people to hit him, for the other fighter to hit him.
Yeah, he's a very, I would say, slick boxer, I would say. Mm-hmm. He's a very slick boxer. He actually has sneaky power too, right? I don't think that punch should have done the damage that it did. So that could be something else going on with Danny Garcia. Again, I'm not here to make excuses, but seeing Lara in some of his fights, he has sneaky power. I think people underestimate his power.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, he has good power, and again, he doesn't let people hit him, and I think that's also what frustrated Danny Garcia.
Absolutely, I think Danny Garcia never figured out the range. He seemed to be quite far from him, and yeah, the range seemed to be giving Danny Garcia fits. Like, it didn't seem like he figured that out. He also didn't seem to be able to pull the trigger, which is another sign of a fighter perhaps ready to retire.
On his way out.
Yep.
Yeah. But wish him the best in whatever he decides to do next. He's had a good career.
Absolutely.
He's made his money. He's still making money. Like, he's used that money wisely. He's invested in properties and all that. I see him buying stuff. So regardless, and then of course, whatever's next for Lara, I hope whatever he wants. He won the fight.
I would like to see him. I'd like to see him take a another step up. I think, people will say, well, he's 41 and maybe the fighters that he's fought haven't been some of the best. Danny Garcia, again, didn't look that great against him, but I think Lara would do good. I can't think of anybody who would really just run through him. I think anybody you put in front of him, Lara's going to give them a good fight. So I think at 41, give him what he wants to. Whatever, if he decides he wants to fight Crawford tomorrow, which I don't know if Crawford would accept that, hey, that would be an interesting fight, to be honest. Like I would pay to see that. Him against Crawford. I know Crawford wants to fight Canelo, but I think even Benavidez, I would even like to see that. I think that would be an interesting fight against Benavidez. But I think Lara at this point, he's 41. I'm not sure how many more years he has left in him, but I do think that his last two fights have shown that he's not ready to retire.
He's not. He shouldn't.
Yep.
With those two outings, he shouldn't. There's no reason why yet.
He hasn't taken, in the last two fights, he's barely taken any punishment.
Exactly. And in his whole career, he hasn't been hit that hard or much. So, yeah, he can keep going. But, yeah. All right, then. So, let's go ahead and get into the main event of the evening.
The fight that no one wanted to watch at first.
Yeah, nobody wanted to watch that fight. Like, when I first... And we kind of expected it, though. We expected it. And then when it actually got announced, it was a bit disappointing. We wanted to see more of a, like some of these fights that, what's it called? A super fight. Like with the Crawford, with Benavidez, against Canelo. But Canelo chose Berlanga, chose to do the Mexico versus Puerto Rico thing, which actually they always have pretty good battles. And we thought this one was going to be not one of those. We thought it was going to be a steamroll. Canelo was going to steamroll Berlanga. But Berlanga surprised us.
He absolutely did. And I'm not going to sit here. Obviously, many people will point at the fact, oh, you're biased. You're Puerto Rican. Look, by no means are we going to say that that fight was close. It wasn't. No. Canelo won that hands down. I gave Berlanga 2 rounds, and I'm probably being very, I may be overdoing it for Berlanga a little bit. I'm being a little bit biased there, but 1 or 2 rounds, I think Berlanga got. However, I do think that Berlanga showed that he has potential. I wouldn't say that he's at Canelo's level. He's not.
No, not at all.
He has potential. I don't know that. I don't even know that. I don't even think Berlanga's even ready for Benavidez either. Might be an interesting fight down the road. I think Benavidez's style might be too much for him. But I don't want to get too sidetracked right now. Let's talk about the fight. Canelo got a knockdown. Canelo knocked Berlanga down. I think it was the third round. But I was actually impressed with how Berlanga took that, right? And watching some of his other fights, I want to say Berlanga had been knocked down. I could be wrong. I want to say at least once, maybe twice against lesser opponents, where I thought, oh man, Canelo's just going to knock this guy out. He's done. Like there's no way he gets up. But even that, the fight against Canelo, it looked like, it was a quick knockdown. And even when he was on the ground, he kind of just punched his
same thing as he did the other time.
Yes, exactly. It's like, okay. I mean, it seemed more like his body's natural response more than him being hurt. He seemed more upset with himself that he allowed himself to get knocked down. But that's just what Canelo does, man. I mean, he's a great fighter. I'm not going to take that away from him. Not impressed with his selection of opponents or when he fights people. But again, that doesn't mean that he's not a great fighter, right? He's one of the best fighting right now. I think he's done a lot of good in the sport. I think there's a lot of things that I wish he had done differently, different fights that he had taken. And, even with it said, I know that Berlanga did better than we thought. Still not the fight that fans wanted to see, right? Let's just be honest. And, Puerto Rico versus Mexico, I get it. That was marketing. Let's just put it out there. That was just a marketing tactic. And at 168, unfortunately, that's the best we have for Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it's the best.
That was Berlanga. And, again, props to Berlanga. He came in there. He showed that he wasn't there just to collect the paycheck. He wasn't just there to, to lay down for anybody. And I think he showed, he impressed me. He shocked me more with a lot of the way he seemed to kind of know what he was doing in there, right? One thing that comes to mind is when Canelo kind of put his hands there and started just walking away like it was nothing. And Berlanga took advantage of it and hit him. Canelo came back, hit him too, but it kind of showed like Berlanga was there to show you're not going to disrespect me and just walk away like that and have an easy night.
Yeah. And one of the things also though, so I was impressed with Berlanga that after the knockdown, he lasted. He landed some good shots too. But yeah, I gave Berlanga only 2 rounds. I gave him the 6th and 7th. Other than that, the rest, it was a shutout, or not. I can't say shutout, but it was a domination by Alvarez. And even those 2 rounds that I gave him, it could have gone either way. But yeah, so I was impressed with Berlanga. He earns some of my respect, because, and don't get me wrong, I do respect every fighter because you go in there, you risk your life for just entertaining us and the way we like to watch.
I agree. I don't like when people call other fighters bums. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. So he earned some of my respect. Some of the things that I didn't like though about Berlanga is that the antics that he was doing in the ring, some of the headbutting, and he paid for it. I was glad Canelo punched him after he purposely headbutted. Just several things that Berlanga did that it just reminded me, okay, this is the guy that bit somebody. Like it's stuff like that I can't respect, but because he did go in there, like you mentioned, he didn't just go and pick up a check. He fought the way he should have fought. He fought like somebody who had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Because literally, if he lost the fight like he did, look at that. He lasted as much as he did. He earned several fans there. Even like in the arena, you could hear some of the Mexican crowd cheering him after the fight. And then, of course, if he would have won, it would have been the shock of the world. Like it would have been amazing. So he literally had nothing to lose, and he fought that way. And he did fight as like a warrior. He stayed in there. As I mentioned, he landed blows that not only looked hard, but Canelo's body language showed that it did, it caught it. He felt it.
It caught his attention.
Canelo has an amazing chin. Never take that away from him. He has an amazing chin.
I mean, I think what you're saying, it goes to show that, right?
Yeah.
His body reacted to it. You could kind of see there were certain instances where Canelo kind of like stopped throwing because of the punch that Berlanga landed. But I don't know that I've seen anybody with a chin like that. Like some of the punches that he took, again, I'm not trying to hype up Berlanga either, but some of those landed extremely clean.
Yeah.
For Canelo just to kind of just stand there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they did catch his attention. Several of them did. I think several of them you could see where and I think it was very telling when they were just kind of standing in front of each other. Canelo didn't throw a punch, Berlanga didn't either. And I think it was kind of both of them showing like, okay, I'm kind of wary about the punch that's coming after. I think they were both counterpunching. Obviously, Canelo's a much better counterpuncher than Berlanga is. But I think Canelo did. I think he, to a certain extent, he respected Berlanga's power, and you could tell.
Mm-hmm.
There were several times where you could see a little hesitation coming from Canelo, and I think Berlanga showed. There were several times where they were kind of blow for blow. Canelo landed more shots, but also showed Berlanga's chin.
Yeah,
we want to talk about that. Berlanga had a good chin.
Yeah. I have to say great because after the knockdown, he took some bombs also.
Yep.
And then in several other rounds, he took bombs and he stood there.
Yeah. The only thing I will say is Canelo hasn't had a knockout since Caleb Plant. So that's back in 2021, I want to say. Okay. So the latter part of 2021. So almost 3 years now that Canelo hasn't had a knockout. And even against, I would say, even lesser opponent than Berlanga. But either way, I think he landed some clean punches on Berlanga. Maybe if we were to give some additional criticism towards Berlanga, or it would be the fact that he did get hit cleaner than a lot of those other fighters.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that I still think he needs more experience. But the flip side of that is the fact that he showed a great chin. Mm-hmm. Now, showing a great chin is great, shows that you have resistance, but he's going to have to work on that defense.
Yeah, because you don't want to do that too much.
Yeah. You don't want to continue doing that. Like he needs to work on his defense. But, I was impressed by him. I actually was one of those critics. Again, I wanted to see him do great. I was going for him. gave him 0 chance, or I gave him a 5% chance of winning. And it was just going to be if he somehow knocked out Canelo, and even like again, Canelo just showed such a great chin, but I still would have liked to see a little bit more, focus from him in the training camp. I'm all about family. I'm all about friends. That's all great, but I think the only concern that I had was I saw a lot of like videos and pictures with his family, with his friends, and
while he was in training camp,
Yeah. Celebrities, and I get it. That's a great life, and not hating on him, and I think that's great. Like I see Danny Garcia doing it all the time, and I think that's great. But Danny Garcia again is a more accomplished fighter than Berlanga. I think Berlanga would have won this fight had he trained better. He would have at least had more of a chance. And seeing how, I guess, how much better he did than we expected, it makes me believe that maybe there could have been a better performance had he focused that much more. That's what that's my biggest criticism from the fight. Just seeing it like, and he showed glimpses. For the first time, I know we used to criticize him so much for him throwing one punch, 1-2s, and then going back to one punch. And after fights, he would say there's levels to this, even though he didn't look that great. But there's a something that we've seen in boxing, and even I'm sure in the UFC too. We see where fighters don't show how great they are until they face somebody at a different level,
and I think it pushes them to that.
Yeah, and I think that's what Canelo kind of did to Berlanga. He kind of elevated him and showed. It made Berlanga have to step up to that level. Much better fight than I expected, than most people expected. And I've talked to a lot of my friends, both Mexican, Puerto Rican. They basically kind of agreed about the same thing, that it was a lot better than they expected. They were like, we didn't even want to watch this fight. Like it didn't make any sense, but entertaining fight. I think Berlanga showed that he has potential. And Canelo showed, like, again, that he's still up there. He put up a great show. He did what he had to do, and again, very, very dominant performance. Don't get me wrong. I do not want people to think that we're saying that Berlanga came close to beating him. He did not.
No,
but he did. He did a lot better.
It was just the story of the night that Berlanga showed up differently, or it wasn't expected for him to actually last all 12 rounds. And also Canelo, just since he's been up top already, he just fought like, what everybody expected him to, how they expected him to fight. The only thing that was surprising was Berlanga. That's why most people are talking about Berlanga more than Canelo, because Canelo was expected to win. He fought a Canelo fight, which was great. Good. He did it. He did what he had to do to win. And then what's next? I know Berlanga, what he had said, he did say that he wants to win a belt and then get the rematch with Canelo.
Look, I'm going to talk about what I would like to see. I think for Berlanga, what I would like to see him do is I would like to see him fight Caleb Plant. Those two, and maybe that was kind of part of the plan, right?
Does Plant have a belt?
Did he win up? No, I don't think he has a belt. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a belt, but I think it would be good to see Berlanga against Plant.
Yeah.
Just to see, what it'll be good for both of them. What Plant has left.
Yeah. And it'll be a great. The bad blood would be a great selling point too.
Yep. They've already kind of sold it, right? And maybe that was kind of by
design,
to kind of do that. Another good fight that I think would be a lot better than what I thought I was going to say would be Berlanga versus Munguia. I think, and people will call it, the battle of the losers, right? They both lost to Canelo, but I think that would be a good fight. I would like to see that. And initially I had said, Munguia, that would be too easy for, or Berlanga would be too easy for Munguia. I don't think so anymore. I think, and again, styles make fights, and that's kind of why I'm saying that.
Yeah, we don't know.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, Berlanga, initially I thought he had no chance because the fights before,
I see what you're saying.
He would throw 1s and 1-2s. That's not going to do much against a guy like Munguia, who throws a lot of punches. Problem is, Munguia also gets hit a lot. He has bad defense.
And doesn't have the chin that Canelo has.
He doesn't have the chin that Canelo for sure. And I honestly think that he seemed a little bit more hurt against Canelo than what Berlanga did when he got knocked down. So I think it's a good fight. I don't know right now. I haven't thought about it enough to pinpoint who I think would actually win that. I just think that it would be a good fight. And I do not think it would be just a steamroll like I used to think that Munguia would just kind of steamroll through Berlanga too.
And what's next for Canelo? What do you think he should do? Because I've heard, him going to Bivol, rematching Bivol. I've heard Terence Crawford. I've heard, of course, same thing. Benavidez is still. I don't know if that's still going on. What do you think would be next for him?
I would like to see Canelo versus Crawford. I really would like to see that fight. I know people will probably say, well, Benavidez. I'd be happy with either one. But initially I had said Benavidez would be the fight that I really wanted to see. But I think Crawford's boxing and, just the way he fights would give Canelo fits. And look, I know where we were going to point at. Crawford's last fight, he struggled against this guy that nobody knew about.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't know about him because they hadn't seen him much and he hadn't had his chance in the spotlight yet.
Yeah.
But I think other fighters at that weight class are going to struggle heavily against. It was Madrimov, I think is his name.
I forgot his name, but I know exactly what you're talking about because it was supposed to be the steamroll.
Yeah, and then the fact that, again, you even forgot his name already. A lot of people didn't know about him. Doesn't mean that this guy's not good. He has a very extensive
resume,
amateur pedigree, I would say.
Oh, okay.
He put up a very good fight against Crawford, and it's just, again, we talked about it before. Styles make fights. Canelo is not Madrimov. And at the same time, people will say, well, Crawford hasn't fought anybody like Canelo. Neither one has fought anybody like the other.
And that's why we want to see it.
Yep.
Come on, boxing.
Obviously, Canelo has the upper hand when it comes to the weight, the power. He definitely has the power, the resistance. But Crawford has the speed, the movement for sure, his boxing skill, IQ. I would say Crawford definitely has that. Not to say Canelo's far behind, but I think the speed of Crawford would give him fits, would give Canelo fits. It's just a very interesting fight that, I personally think Crawford would win that.
And we all want to see it. I honestly think that Canelo would win that fight. Just because of the weight, because of the resistance that he has. I think Canelo would win that fight. I really do. But that's why we want to see it. We want to see what happens. And like Crawford, even though, like Crawford said, they not like us. They not like us. Brings me back, which is a good segue to the UFC event. and it's funny, now that I mentioned that, I was sitting closer to the TV. So I didn't even see the name and what they put. I just saw it was Terence Crawford. And I couldn't hear it because people were talking. Turns out the announcers did say that looked more like Terence Bud Crawford. We didn't hear that, though, because people were talking, and I didn't see that. So I just saw the TV, and I was like, oh, crap, look at that. Crawford's actually at the UFC event. And then my brother-in-law and nephews and sister were like, no, that's not Crawford. That's Kendrick Lamar, because they read it. They're not boxing people like we are. They don't watch fights like us. So they're like, no, they said that's Kendrick Lamar. Why would they mess up? And me and my brother were like, no, that was definitely Crawford, guys. Trust me.
I know Crawford. I've seen the guy in person. I mean, come on.
Oh, the UFC. That's funny. Yeah. But I do got to say, my nephews had me second guessing because they did show me a picture of Kendrick Lamar and like several minutes after. And I was like, wait, what was that him? Was that Kendrick? And I got it wrong?
But I kept telling you, I was like, no. That was definitely Crawford. There's just no way.
And
yes,
the internet,
the pictures that our nephews were showing us, it kind of looked like
looks
Crawford.
similar.
Similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. When I saw it, I was like, no, I know who I saw. That was definitely Crawford. And, why would he be with
Turkey Al-Rashid?
Yeah, like why would he be with him?
Same. Yeah, that's what I was thinking the same thing, but they had me second guessing. But yeah, and again, we're going to talk about the 3 fights, the last 3 fights there. even though a little bit disappointing. Now this fight that of course was actually pretty. It was interesting. It was an interesting fight. Ortega versus Lopez. So Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. That fight there, I knew Lopez was going to win. I didn't know it was going to be that much of a domination. Like
So one-sided.
it's so one sided. From the first round, he knocked him down. Which Ortega, you're a warrior, man. He hung in there for the rest of the fight, and he took some bombs, not only to the face but to the leg. Like he took some hits. I mean, at the end of the final round, Ortega's eye was messed up. His eye was messed up, and then his left shin, it grew a knee. Basically, it was that big. It was bad. So he took a lot of damage. His eye took a lot of damage, and during that fight though, Lopez could have won it. I feel like on the feet. Like I don't know why he took him down. I think Dana White said this, or maybe even I heard Lopez say it, but maybe that was the game plan to submit a Brian Ortega instead of knocking him out. Because submitting Brian Ortega, which is like known for his ground game, would just be like, oh my god. I feel like he could have made the night end a little sooner.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. I had said the same thing, right? I thought it was going to be a close fight where Ortega would, just come up just short of winning the fight again. But and I say again compared to previous fights where he just seemed to just be that much short, just a little bit short of.
Besides the last two fights, because he did win his last two. But besides that, yes, he would always fight you, right?
But in watching that fight against Lopez was just so dominant. I was impressed by him. Again, Ortega is a warrior, and I think that also gives more credit for Lopez. I think he did he did what he had to do. Yes, he probably could have ended it sooner. He probably could have done a lot of things differently. But at the end of the day, he maybe just wanted the extra round. I don't know what was going through his head. I was impressed. I think he did a really good job against a warrior, and I'm excited to see what other fights are in store for him.
And then for Ortega, maybe give him a fight or two to look good, and I feel like he should probably be out. If this wasn't his last fight, I feel like he should probably be out of it. He's had an okay career, but with the damage he took, and then he seemed like he wasn't focused either before the fight. He missed weight by a little bit as well, if I'm not mistaken, or the weight cut was bad. I forgot which one it was. But yeah, I feel like he's on his way out, and much luck to him as well. But he's close to the end of his career, and for Lopez, it's just getting started. That kid, he hits hard. He's good in all fronts.
Definitely has a good future in front of him.
Yes,
I'm excited.
And he has a signature what's it called? A signature thing, his hair. Like everybody has their thing. Like Sean O'Malley had his hair. You got Patty the Batty Pimblett. He has his weird hairstyle. And then you have his style of hair. Like he can what's it called? He draws attention with that. So I wish him the best as well. He definitely has a great future ahead of him in the UFC.
I can agree with that. All right, let's move on to the next fight there.
Do we have to?
Grasso versus Shevchenko 3.
Yes.
So the first fight, obviously, a very big upset from Grasso against Shevchenko. The second one was a very closely contested draw. And then the third one, I'll start on this one. I had predicted that Grasso would come out on top. It was Mexican Independence weekend. I thought, okay, for sure, Grasso's going to seize the moment. Like, this is going to be big. And I was pulling for her. It was another disappointment for me. I feel like different, obviously, than comparing it to boxing, but that's what we're going to do here for the two. Uh, I think she showed heart. It's just she showed like I don't know, like she just couldn't figure it out. She seemed completely out of range.
Mhm.
You know, some of those punches that she kept throwing, some of those swings were
Just desperate. It looks so desperate.
but it was just like, you know, Shevchenko was over there,
Mhm.
and she was punching it thin air. Like I didn't understand, you know, what was going on there. And I don't know if, you know, she just couldn't warm up. Maybe the event was, you know, it just got kind of to her. The pressure got to her. She's definitely capable of beating Shevchenko. She showed it,
Yeah.
and she showed glimpses of it. Right, there was several times where Shevchenko, you know, took it to the ground, and I thought Grasso was gonna, you know, get the submission, and you know, it almost seemed like even that was kind of desperation. Like, oh, okay, let me take advantage of this now. But it almost seemed like after one of the first few minutes, it was like she was the one waiting on Shevchenko and was trying to counter whatever Shevchenko did. And it just seemed like she was following Shevchenko, Shevchenko's lead. She fought Shevchenko's fight.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on that. And it was disappointing. Yeah, and even to Grasso, I'm sure it was disappointing. You can tell it during the fight. She was disappointed. She couldn't figure it out. Shevchenko fought her fight. She fought, you know, what she needed to do to win the fight. She took her down. She controlled her while she was down. Even though I do got to say this, Shevchenko didn't do too much while she had ground control. True. Shevchenko just, you know, took her down and controlled her, but she didn't do too much damage. As we mentioned, Grasso did throw up her submissions, several of them which we thought were gonna land. Like there were some that looked like they could, like some arm bars that looked like they could actually.
How much do you think? Not to make an excuse for Shevchenko, but how much of that was Grasso's ability to perhaps get a submission to have Shevchenko kind of thinking that, right?
What do you mean?
Her being on top, not really doing much with being on top because
with her concern that she would get a you know, leave something in and get submitted. Yes and no. I don't think that Shevchenko that stopped her from doing anything. If anything, Grasso's defense and when she was taken down. And honestly, what I thought you were going to go with, I thought you were going to say, what if Grasso was getting taken down on purpose every now and then because she knew, hey, I can probably submit her, which that would have made kind of sense because on the stand-up, she couldn't figure it out. So either, even though I don't know, I really don't know. I know Grasso's not known for takedowns and stuff like that, but she should have probably gone for a few. You know, throw a couple, you know, feints or whatever. Throw, you know, hide it behind some punches. But maybe she should have gone for the takedown. I'm not sure, but on the
whatever she did, it wasn't working.
It wasn't working at all. It wasn't working at all. She did not have an answer for the takedowns either. She was getting taken down pretty easy. Yeah, and honestly, even in the stand-up, Valentina was winning. Valentina was landing some, and Grasso's the boxer, supposedly. She's the one that's supposed to have the hands, but no, just a dominant performance for Valentina. She showed why she used to reign over that division for a good bit. She came back, and Grasso just couldn't pull the trigger standing up and couldn't do the submission. So will there be a fourth fight? I don't know. After this fight, some people may say Grasso does deserve one, but after the performance and how it went, I don't know if the UFC will be behind that to see that again.
I think they would, but Grasso would have to show something first against a different opponent.
Okay, so have to fight. Yeah.
She's gonna have to fight. So not next. You're right. I think it's not gonna be next.
Yeah.
Grasso's gonna have to show that, you know, she's put this one behind her. This was an off night, you know, and fighters have that, right?
Correct.
In any sport, they have off nights, and this could have been Grasso's, even though it was extremely, again, I'll say it again, disappointing. Yes. I thought Grasso was going to take this one. I didn't know if it was going to be dominant. I just thought that she was going to take this one and, you know, come out on top. But this was not close.
No, I was in the same boat. I wanted Grasso to win. And I thought she was going to win. I really did. I thought her stand-up would be way better. Yeah, I don't know. It was just an off night, which let's go ahead and talk about the next off night. O'Malley versus Duashvili. Duashvili. I'm not sure exactly.
Merab
Duashvili is
Merab
and Sean O'Malley fight. So it was the same thing, same exact thing with some drama at the beginning, some weird stuff that was happening. Merab was screaming at the corner or the coach of O'Malley, and the ref stopped the fight. And it was weird because if you rewatch it, if you do end up rewatching that fight, which I don't know why you would, but if you do end up rewatching that fight, at the beginning, it looked like Sean had more ring dominance or ring. Is it ring dominance or ring
generalship?
Generalship. There you go. Thank you. That's why you're here.
That's why. Wow.
No, but it did, and I know it was just a few seconds or whatever, but it just seemed like he had more, ring generalship. And then after that, he didn't have the middle of the ring as much. Maybe that threw him off. But yeah, just Herb Dean stopping the fight to scream at the corner and to scream at Merab to stop that. That was weird. Also, Herb Dean not stop the fight. He kept yelling at them, keep working, which at that time, Merab was on top. He was controlling him. He was throwing the punches. He was working. I don't know. And even while they were standing up, Merab loves to run around a lot. And Herb Dean, same thing. Keep working, like chill. Like he put himself a little bit too much in that fight, which, don't get me wrong, it was just annoying, but it wasn't going to change the outcome.
No. I think, again, another off night or another one of those off nights for Sean O'Malley. I don't know. It was disappointing. I thought that one for sure was going to be a steamroll. I had said, I know a lot of people were saying it was going to be close. A lot of people said that Merab was going to win. They were right. I thought Sean O'Malley was going to show that he's at a different level. Not going to make any excuses. Merab fought his fight and he did what he had to do, but Sean O'Malley, I think he needs to kind of the same. He needs to show that this was just an off night for him. I think it was just I'm not gonna sugarcoat. It was an awful performance.
Yeah, no, and I thought that because he's proven me wrong, and not proven me. Well, I guess you could say proven me wrong. O'Malley, he's proven me wrong several times before, where I thought, oh, this one is going to be the one to stop the hype train. That I was like, all right, I'm on board, O'Malley. I'm on board, and then.
He showed that.
Yeah, he kicked me off.
Yeah, I'm you know what's actually.
But,
this is I think what really disappointed me too was when I think it was the last round. Yeah, last round when he had Merab hurt. He need him, and it. I'll be honest. I lost my voice, like screaming at him. O'Malley, go.
Which hold on. Before I want to bring up something that you said. You almost lost your voice yelling at him. His coach or yoga instructor, actually, his yoga instructor is what I want to call it, because he was like, all right, now breathe. All right, and next go into downward pose, like downward dog. Yeah, like what was, I didn't get that. Like no urgency from the corner. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying yell at the kid, but be more like,
look, I'm all about, making sure your fighter's calm, right? You don't want to get him overly stressed, given the fact that he's losing. But at the same time, you also don't want to put him to sleep. And not making any excuses, but I do think that that's not what he needed at the moment. He needed a little bit of urgency in there, like, hey, calm down. However, you need to do this and this. He did give him some instruction, but it was a little too passive, a little too calm.
Correct.
It didn't seem to spark a fire. Mm-hmm. It just seemed to be all about focus and it's gonna be fine. Hey, relax. And again, you need to be relaxed to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. He almost seemed to be too relaxed in there, including at the very end, like I mentioned, the fact that he seemed to have a really good chance against Merab and just kind of stood there.
Yeah, he couldn't. He just couldn't.
I don't know if he was just gassed. I don't know what the reason was behind it. I would love to hear from O'Malley as to why.
I actually did. I saw his podcast. He mentioned several things. During the fight, like getting taken down, like how easily he was getting taken down, all that, he mentioned that did get to his head in the fact that he was conserving his energy throughout a lot of the fight. That's why you couldn't see him pull the trigger too much, because he was like, all right, when this guy takes me down, I need the energy to try to get back up. So that mindset, I feel like, really messed him up, because that's what he was thinking of.
He was basically fighting. Then he was fighting Merab's fight.
Exactly.
And Merab, I mean, he lost the fight from the beginning, if that's the case. Yeah. Because if you're fighting somebody else's fight, you're more worried about what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Not to say you shouldn't be worried, but you shouldn't be worried. You should be wary of it.
Exactly.
You should be wary of it, but fight your fight, and instill your dominance. And he didn't do that. And you could see that part. You can kind of see. I didn't know that's the reason why he didn't go for it at the very end. But
I feel like at the very end, though, that was it. Actually, so that was during the fight. At the very end, though, to go back to what you had said or what you were asking, it was just because of all the wrestling. He was tired.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that would make a lot of sense. I think he could have done a lot better. Just another disappointing fight that night. Again, props to Merab. I don't want to take away from him, but I do think that we didn't see the best Sean O'Malley. We didn't see the best Grasso. Mm-hmm. So I left just some disappointment, because I know that wasn't the best. And look, had both of those fighters really given their all, and I think it would have been a much closer fight. I would have been happy even if they both lost.
Same result, yeah.
But
they would still been happy.
It would have been closer. Both of those were dominant performances by their opponents, but almost more so because of the lack of something that the other one didn't do.
Yeah. And I mean, Sean O'Malley didn't have an excuse, which props to him. He took the loss well. He actually said that everything went well. Training, the weight cut, that everything felt amazing.
Yep.
Even in there, he felt good. It just didn't work out. It was not his night. Like, he had no excuses. And he even said that. He was like, I had no excuses. It was not his night. And back to the drawing board. Basically, he's going to start, I guess, come back, get maybe a fight or two, whatever, like, and see what happens. But I do wish him the best again. But I feel like with these wrestlers, you have to, like, what they're coming to do. You have to trust your train. You have to train. First of all, you have to have a training camp specific for that type of fighter. And then when you get in there, you have to trust it. Yeah. You can't be gun shy. You have to trust what you've been hopefully training for. I know, like throwing kicks and certain things keep you open to a takedown. But again, you have to trust your training. You have to not fight the other person's fight.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting to see that, or to hear the commentators calling when Merab was actually going to go for the takedown. Mm-hmm. Like they saw it, and I think if the commentators were able to see that, why didn't Sean O'Malley's corner?
Because they were trying to keep him calm, Robert.
That to your point, I think that's where I would have liked to see. Oh man, a lot of urgency, especially at the last round. They really should have tried to wake him up, but it was kind of the same thing.
It was. But yeah. Anyways, still in the UFC, a couple of fights got announced actually. So UFC 309, Stipe Miocic, I always say his name wrong, and then John Jones. Or I guess John Jones versus Stipe. John Jones will be first. That fight is finally happening. It was supposed to happen. It got canceled. And then for the co-main event, it's going to be Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. Mm. So exciting fights. I feel like they can be, but they could also be steamrolls. Stipe hasn't fought since, I think it's been, no, by the time he fights, it's going to be like 3.5 years, because the last time he fought was March of 2021. And John Jones, even though he hasn't fought since last year, 1 year, mm-hmm. John Jones is John Jones. He's a freak of nature. Like, he's gonna go in there, and I feel like he's gonna, put some hurt on this guy unless he gets caught. Stipe's still a fighter.
Yeah. I mean, I think if John Jones doesn't come in there and do anything stupid, I think he's gonna take away the win dominantly. It's gonna be a dominant night for him, but who knows? If he decides to showboat in there, It'd be a
Or if he
it could be
keeps
an upset.
partying too much with Ryan Garcia. They were at the UFC event
I remember
together.
seeing that.
Yeah,
And somebody told Dana White.
yeah.
that
Dana would look worried, like, "Oh, wait a minute, somebody go check on." And then for Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler, Michael Chandler was supposed to fight Conor McGregor. That never happened for whatever reason. But now he's fighting Oliveira. I think, Oliveira takes it. He's more of a complete fighter to me. What's it called? Chandler. He has good stand up, and of course he has good wrestling. But I just feel like he's lacking in certain things that Oliveira is going to take advantage of. So Oliveira could still get caught, though. Let me say that.
Yeah, I think that'd probably be. I think Chandler has a better chance against Oliveira compared to Stipe versus John Jones.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do agree. I think Oliveira is just a more complete fighter. I think he takes that one.
All right. And in boxing, we actually have a fight this weekend. Pretty interesting fight. Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. What do you think about that fight?
It's an interesting fight. Anthony Joshua's coming off his destruction of Ngannou. I think Ngannou had a good showing against Fury, and I think that may have gotten to him. It was more, I think, Fury not taking that fight seriously. But complete demolition by Anthony Joshua. I thought it was gonna be a little bit more interesting than that, but that's neither here nor there. Daniel has looked impressive in his last two fights. He's got the knockout versus Filip Hrgovic and Jarrell Miller. He's got stoppages over them.
Those are notable stoppages because he's
absolutely
22-2.
Yep.
Sorry, 22-2 with 20 knockouts, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think yep. He's most of his fights have not gone the distance, I should say.
Yeah.
But
even the ones he's lost, it's been by 2 KOs.
But prior to that, I know people were questioning his heart because prior to that, he did lose against Usyk via, I think it was KO or TKO. I think it was KO.
He lost against the
Usyk
unified champ.
Yeah, but I think people were talking about that only because Usyk was coming up in weight. Yeah, so I think the fact that he was seen as a smaller fighter, but you're right. Usyk is the unified champ for a reason. But with all that said, I think Anthony Joshua gets to Daniel, and I do think it'll be a stoppage.
Yeah,
by Anthony Joshua. My take on it. If I'm going to put a round on it, say 5th round. 5th round TKO.
I think it'll be an interesting fight. Honestly, I don't know who I have winning, just because they obviously both have power. They're big boys. They're heavyweights. So with heavyweights, unless the skill gap is way different, I have a hard time judging it because one punch with those guys, that's it. That's literally it. I know everybody has a puncher's chance or whatever, but with heavyweights, it's very noticeable there. So honestly, I don't know who's gonna win. I feel like it'll be a good fight, a fun fight to watch. We'll definitely watch it. But yeah, I'm not gonna put a name to who I think is winning because I have no idea. It's gonna be a good fight to watch. Somebody's going down, I feel like. So we'll see who goes down.
It's definitely gonna be a good fight. I do think it's gonna be a good fight while it lasts.
Yeah,
I think they'll probably start a little slow at the beginning. I think Anthony Joshua will pick it up. I think Daniel will try to pick it up as well, but I think Joshua definitely has the most experience at that level. He's fought Usyk. He's come up short against Usyk, and I know styles make fights, but I think he's Anthony Joshua is very, very confident in there. So is Daniel. Again, he's coming off 2 stoppage wins against very notable fighters.
Yeah.
And I know people may point like they normally do with Joshua versus Ruiz, but Daniel is a different fighter. He's no Ruiz, and I think it's just different.
Yeah.
I don't see Daniel pulling this one off.
All right. You've heard it here first. Go put your house on it. No, I don't want to get you in trouble. Someone's going to mention, hey, man, you own your house. No. All right, guys. Well, that's a good way to end it. You know, what's coming this weekend. So we will be, of course, next week. We'll be talking about that, talking about any other news, whether it's MMA or boxing. Hopefully it's nothing negative. Hopefully it's nothing but positive announcements and of course the recap of whatever happens this weekend. But yeah, thank you so much for doing this with me, Robert. Like we said, it's been a long time coming. Yeah, it's awesome that we finally did it. What are your thoughts on the first episode?
This has been fun. It's exciting. Again, this is kind of what we already do. I would like to hear from the viewers, what they want to see. What are your thoughts? I know a lot of them may disagree with some of our recaps, analysis, and that's fine. That's why there are opinions, right? We're not going to say here I'm right all the time. I am wrong once or twice a year.
No, and like he said, leave us your comments down below. Let us know, what you think, if you agree or if you even if you disagree.
And why.
And why. Yes, don't just say, I disagree.
Yeah.
Well, now that I said that, somebody's going to just put, I disagree.
Or you're just hating.
Yeah.
No, we're not. Like we said earlier, we respect all the fighters. There are warriors. I don't think there's any such thing as a bum if you're going out there putting your life on the line every single time. But yes, let us know what you think.
Yep. Comment down below, like the video, subscribe, of course, if you haven't subscribed already. There'll be more to come, and go ahead and follow us on all social medias as well. So far, we do have an Instagram and a Twitter account. Same handle. It's at betweencorners pod for both Twitter X for X and Instagram.
Everybody knows.
Yeah, I know. I'm just. It's funny because when Twitter turned to X, I didn't know about it. I was looking at my phone. I was like, "Where's Twitter at? Where's Twitter at?"
You're speaking for probably the majority.
Oh, really? Okay. No, but yeah, go ahead and give us a follow there. We're gonna of course post clips on there, and make other news as well. Sometimes we may even go live on one of them, like during an event or something like that, just to give our reaction. But yeah, more to come, of course. A lot of exciting things, and hopefully we're able to elevate this to a whole nother level and make this something that it's fun for everybody. Fun for everybody to watch.
Yep.
But yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it. This definitely wraps it up. We have nothing else to say. You have anything else to say?
No, that is it. Thank you all. Muchas gracias. Kamsahamnida.
What he said. All right, guys. Thank you all for watching. Yes, whatever. Oh, that was actually Portuguese. I caught that one.
Should know that one.
I should. All right, guys. Have a great night, day, morning, wherever you're watching this. Pasa afuera.